Well, good morning, everyone, or afternoon, depending on wherever you are in the world. I wanted to pop on today I just need to fix my screen here, to talk to you about Chiron retrograde. So Chiron goes retrograde today. Chiron in astrology is the sign of the wounded healer. Um, it's not a planet, it's an asteroid, but it's a minor um, asteroid, or it's an asteroid or a minor planet. Some people refer to it as a planet, but it's actually an asteroid that orbits between Saturn and Uranus. So in mythology, Chiron was very different from others of his kind. He was a teacher, a healer. He was a mentor to um, many of the Greek heroes that we would know through Greek mythology, including Achilles. Um, so he was this wonderful, beautiful healer, but in spite of his ability to heal others, he was unable to heal himself. So he had an incurable wound that was accidentally inflicted by a poison arrow. So his story kind of teaches us the paradox of healing, that often our deepest wounds become our greatest gifts when we are aware of them and we have compassion and we're able to transmute our pain, our personal pain, into our personal power in a forward moving way. Um, so Chiron in astrology reveals where we carry our deepest wound on a soul level. It's where we may feel broken, inadequate, rejected, unseen, unheard, unworthy, negative self talk. Um, but it also points to our potential for deep healing within ourselves, and especially for others. It often represents a place where we overcompensate or feel triggered, yet where we are called to grow spiritually and emotionally. And that's individually and collectively. Chiron links Saturn with Uranus, and it serves as a bridge between the personal and transpersonal realms. So Saturn rules karma, structure, foundation, responsibility. It's father energy. And Uranus is shock and surprise. It's the great awakener. It's expect the unexpected as far as change. It's liberation. It rules Aquarius. It rules um, freedom, thinking outside of the box, doing things in a new and different way. So when we bridge these two things, it's like the ability to heal and release old karma from the form in which we're used to seeing it, feeling it, or navigating it energetically in a new and different light, Uranus, because it thinks outside of the box. It's the higher mind. Okay, so there's growth in this. There's we're going back and we're reviewing our old wounds, or we're revisiting them. All the retrograde words: revisit, review, revise, rewrite, renew, uh, regeneration. I really like that word because I feel like the earth is going through this whole regenerative process, and so are we at the same time. So, what happens when Chiron goes retrograde? Okay. Um, Chiron, like all planets, goes retrograde each year, where when something is retrograde, it appears to be going backwards, but it is not going backwards. It's just from our perspective here on Earth, looking up into the heavens, it looks like it is, but it isn't. And it has to do with the angle of the Earth and other mathematical equations. Okay. So um, when planets like Mercury or Mars go retrograde, they often impact things that are somewhat external, like external events, like say when Mercury goes retrograde, like your computer may break, or you may be delayed, or something just doesn't turn out the way that you thought it was going to turn out. Um, when, say, Mars goes retrograde, um, you're going back and you're reviewing a path, the path that you've taken, or it's kind of like asking you, because Mars likes to move forward quickly without thought. So when Mars is in retrograde, it asks us to stop and pause and to think about what we're doing before we take that leap. Okay, to make sure that we're not moving too quickly and miss some of the important details. And that's kind of what Mercury retrograde does as well when it comes to paperwork and contracts and things like that. It's asking you to, you know, really look for the details, go over the details. Okay, it's why they suggest that you don't sign contracts during a Mercury retrograde. But what happens when Chiron goes retrograde? So what happens with Chiron is it's about doing the internal work. Okay, so when Chiron goes retrograde, it's usually about 5 months out of each year. Sometimes so many of us have been through it and didn't even realize we were going through it. But it's that time when those old wounds or come up, things from the past, the things that are typically have been very, very painful, or repeating patterns, and you kind of beat yourself up because you keep asking yourself, why does this keep happening? But the reason why it keeps happening is because you haven't healed or processed the energy around the wound or the wound itself. So when Chiron goes retrograde, we're going to revisit old wounds and patterns that have not yet fully healed. We're going to reflect on how we identify with our pain or our trauma. Um, and how do we do that? How do we identify with our pain or trauma? How do we process it? How do we see it? How do we feel it move through our body? How do we heal it? And do we let it identify us, or do we identify it so that we're able to learn how to process it and move forward and heal ourselves and others? Chiron retrograde. I think when I did my last video, I said we would be getting a chance to rewrite our story because we have now five planets in retrograde. So we think about all of those rewords again. And I had talked about that we really truly actually get to rewrite our story. So what is your old story? And how do you get to rewrite it? Well, through the process of healing the old wounds. And how do we do that? Through reflection, through mirror work, through shadow work, through therapy, whatever your choice is, however you choose to, you know what's best for you, and no one else knows what's best for you better than you do. So we get to rewrite and retell our story moving forward. This is a huge opportunity for us to heal this wound, or at least to understand it better, more fully, in a way that we take our pain and transmute it, and everything that we learned during that transformational process of turning our pain into our, well, it's a gathering of wisdom during the process of transmuting our pain into our personal power. And this is how we gather wisdom and knowledge. And this is how we move forward in a way that we're able to help others do the same, because I always say you have to experience it in order to teach it. So how can you teach someone how to process something that you haven't taught yourself? You can learn anything from a book, but the application process itself is a whole different ball game. Okay. Um, we also get to reclaim the parts of ourselves that we have hidden out of shame, where somewhere in our lives we were shamed for being too smart, too pretty, Maybe you talk too much. Maybe you um, just did something that was made someone else feel uncomfortable, and instead of healing their wounds, they shamed you into thinking you did something wrong when you really didn't. Um, and we also get to review how we will have the ability to offer to help others in the future without bypassing our own pain because we've done our own work. Okay. So, individually, on a personal level, Chiron brings us into contact with our inner child, past life wounds, and ancestral pain, along with long held emotional injuries. It may feel as though the scabs we've worked so hard to protect are being scratched open again, not to hurt us, but to allow for a deeper, more integrated healing. Okay. So what happens is if we don't heal the wound, we keep pushing it down, it keeps coming back up. So it's like the scab on, if you fall and scrape your knee and it bleeds, and you get the scab on your knee and it's almost healed, and then it starts to itch and you pull the scab off and it starts to bleed again. So we want to stop the bleeding. That's what we want to do. We want to stop the bleeding. We want to heal ourselves. Okay. So, signs that you're feeling the Chiron retrograde, because some of you are going to feel it a lot stronger than others. Okay. You may be overly sensitive, especially around themes of rejection, abandonment, or somewhere in your life where you may have felt like a failure or someone else told you you were a failure. Okay. A return of old childhood memories, dreams, or feelings of inadequacy. Um, Also, I want to say that little voice in the back of your head, a place where you don't feel confident or safe as well, could come up. And opportunities to mentor, guide, or heal others around the same issues that you faced, or a need for solitude, therapy, or deep spiritual work. This is where you may want to retreat into yourself. This is where we're doing the inner work, the shadow work. This is where we do the deep healing, not only for ourselves, but for others. This is also, if you're someone who's having those feelings of abandonment, when you're in this shadow work, into this deep darkness, um, which is really a very, very healing place for you to be, this is where you want to ask yourself, has someone else abandoned you and led you to feel this way? Or have you abandoned yourself? Because we can abandon ourselves. Sometimes we don't support ourselves the same way we support others. So we need to love and show compassion and make time for healing and for meditation and self care for ourselves. We can abandon ourselves, people, and we need to be mindful of this. Okay, there are many different forms of abandonment, just like I was talking about the difference between feeling, discomfort or fear. Are you really in fear? Because if you're in fear, you're frozen. Or are you growing and expanding and changing? And is that uncomfortable for you? Because those are totally different energies. And this is the same kind of thing. Okay. So, depending on your sign, those are some of the things that you may be feeling. So, Chiron retrograde asked you, most of all, to take care of the most tender parts of and sensitive parts of yourself. It's a time to become the healer of your own wound. And it's not about fixing or curing. It's about tending to yourself with being present for yourself and showing that love and compassion and that having that faith, not only in yourself, but in spirit and knowing that you're never alone. Okay. So, Chiron's retrograde is happening in Aries. So it is around a lot of things that will be coming up as far as wounds will be around, first house things or Aries associated things, which is your identity, your self-worth, um, and courage. Those would be the things that would be the most activated. Okay. And I'm going to say some anger could come up around that because Mars rules Aries, and Aries, Mars, is the warrior. Okay. So there could be things that, um, people say or do that trigger you, that it's not their fault because they may be unaware of whatever your wound is. All right. So collectively, the Chiron retrograde holds up a mirror to the wounds that we are experiencing in our society. It's a time when we're called to confront generational trauma, institutional injustice, and spiritual disconnection. We want to stay connected to spirit, but we also don't want to have judgment around the way people connect to whatever their own spiritual beliefs are. Okay. So we don't want to project blame outward, but we want to examine it from the root cause because what we're seeking, the wisdom that we're seeking, people, is on a soul level. So we're doing soul level repair work. We're doing a deep dive, um, kind of almost like Plutonian in a way, where we may take that deep dive into the darkness where all of that beautiful, um, transformational energy is. We're looking, we're like babies in the dark, trying to find the light switch. Um, because if we can find the key to our wound, then we have the key to the answer on how to heal our wound. Okay. So, um, in the past, when Chiron has been in Aries, um, in retrograde, it has been associated with identity crisis, especially around race, gender, and self-definition. I think that we are seeing that play out in our world today, especially in the United States. There's this imbalance between the masculine and the feminine energy, where the masculine is really wants to control in a somewhat narcissistic way. So we need to try to bring balance back to that. Um, and there could be a deep questioning around what leadership and bravery actually truly look like. Okay. Because being a bully doesn't make you a good leader. Okay. Um, and some of the bravest people in the world really aren't seen, heard, or acknowledged. They're the people that do the little things. They're the people that step out of their comfort zone. They're the people that run into a burning house to rescue someone that they don't even know without thought. They don't even stop to think. They just do, which is an Aries quality, just doing. Okay. Also, there could be a push for authentic expression and healing masculine distorted views and behaviors, which we kind of have talked about in several videos. So I don't really think I need to go into that any more deeply unless someone has a question, and feel free to place it below the video and I'd be happy to answer it. And it could also be associated with collective grief around violence, war, and abandonment of the self, because these are all Aries themed subjects, okay? And we are all feeling the effects of all of the wars and the violence and the feelings of abandonment, not only of the self from ourselves, but from our governments and from people who maybe don't have the same beliefs as we do, especially political beliefs, because everything is so divided. Although I see things coming back around, I see people coming back together in different ways because they're finding that although they may have different beliefs, there are things that they can still agree on. And that is that every life is valuable and sacred, and um, that no one race of people should be targeted for all of the world's problems or should be considered all of the world's heroes. Okay. That it takes a village, and that village has different races, different colors, different sexes, different beliefs, and we can agree to disagree and move forward with this healing, not only personally, but on a collective level. And that's going to require, you know, courage and truth and compassion and love and stepping out of your comfort zone and agreeing to disagree and doing it in a respectful manner and coming together on the really important issues, like the Mexican people that crossed the border that came into Texas to help rescue some of those people that died in the flood. Many more people would have passed, and so many lives were lost between Mexico and Texas, not counting all the other things that are going on in the world with all of the wars. So we need to be more open and try to channel our anger in a positive way and not channel it, you know, onto any one um, definition of person, no one race or sex, because there's also a lot of imbalance between the masculine and the feminine, and there's a lot of aggression there as well. So we need to keep that in check. We don't want people getting hurt. Okay. So the invitation of this Chiron retrograde is to turn inward and hold space for unresolved grief or shame. Become your own loving witness to your inner child rather than the critic. You can hear, let the little voice talk and then let it go away. Listen to the child and show that compassion and gratitude and that love for that child. Um, and help that child, tell that child that it's okay. And that's part of the healing process. And also, we want to revisit and rethink healing. We want to rethink about healing as being circular. It's a spiral process. It's not linear. And there should be no how can I say this? Looking for the prize, looking for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. There should be no expectations. And when we think of healing as circular or a spiral, it's like I envision like a tornado. And when you start at the bottom, it's small. And when you go up, the funnel gets larger and larger and larger. The circle gets larger. So with each spiral, we're leveling up. And you think it's a repeating pattern. And in a way, it is a repeating pattern. But in another way, every time we go around that circle, we pick up a new piece of information, a new little tidbit of wisdom. So we are growing and expanding each time, which is why by the time you get to the top, you may start out this big and you may wind up this big because we're growing and expanding. We're taking our personal pain, we're learning how to process it. And during that processing, of that pain, we are gathering wisdom that is we are using to turn our pain into our power. Okay. We also want to reconnect with ancient medicine, ancient ways, because um, Chiron is the co-ruler of Virgo, and Virgo is associated with plant medicine, also um, herbalism, and being the person of service. So we want to reconnect with ancient medicine, the ancient ways, ancient storytelling, um, ancient rituals. If there's something that you do in your private life that's been carried down through generations, and we want to take extra care of our body. We want to break those generational cycles and old patterns of unworthiness and silence. We need to speak our truth. It's a powerful, powerful time to do shadow work, inner childhood integration, um, process old trauma through some kind of therapy or healing assistance, um, or even possibly like if you have a shaman, if you work with a shaman. Okay. So some suggestions to help support you during Chiron retrograde. Journaling. We all know I'm a big journaler. Um, and ask yourself, what wounds am I carrying? Um, are these still shaping the decisions that I make today? Um, where do I still feel like I'm not enough? And where does that feeling come from? What is the root of that feeling? And what would it look like and feel like if I could offer myself radical acceptance and compassion in the here and now? Um, Also, meditation, try to connect with your younger self in a meditation and ask your younger version of yourself what they need and offer comfort, presence, and forgiveness because we're never really alone. So if you feel abandoned, also ask yourself, is it possible you have abandoned yourself in some way? We can we can abandon ourselves by not properly caring for ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically. Are you eating well? Are you exercising well? Are you meditating? Are you taking time for a little bit of self-care for you? Are you taking, hot salt baths? Are you using essential oils? Are you just sitting out in the sun? Are you doing little things for yourself? Okay. And remember, you get to rewrite your story. We're talking about all of the re's yet again, just like any other retrograde planet. And I don't know, it was one of the last 2 or 3 videos. I had said, I think it was in the card read, we have an opportunity to rewrite our story. So we have an opportunity here to find our trigger, process it, heal it, take the wisdom that we've learned from it, turn it into our power, and rewrite our future and create a future that is healthier for us and more comfortable for us. And remember the difference between discomfort and fear. There is discomfort with growth. Fear is frozen. If you're frozen, you're in fear. If you're still able to process, then you're just uncomfortable. That's just part of the process. Okay. Um, some herbs that could or oils that could help assist you. Comfrey is very healing. Um, Yarrow offers emotional protection, and lavender is very soothing for the mind, body, and spirit. Um, lavender I love lavender and rose quartz because um, and amethyst and clear quartz because they could be used for anything. Anything. They're good for everything, and they're very easy. Um, so also some oils would be rose oil because that's very carries a very high healing frequency. It's also associated with the heart. Frankincense, um, cinnamon or cloves, something that's very grounding to help offset um, that Mars warrior aggression type of energy. So that would be helpful. And let's see, what else? I already said rose quartz um, because that's the stone of unconditional love that soothes heartbreak, shame, and self judgment. Pink opal for deep soul healing and emotional reset. Encourages loving the inner child and releasing old heartbreaks. Very, very important. For trauma, um, black moonstone is great. It enhances shadow work, emotional depth, and ancestral memory. It is powerful for inner childhood regression. Um, Amethyst, as I said earlier, offers divine perspective, clarity, and connection to spirit. And your spirit guides during healing, supports the release of addictive coping mechanisms. Danbarite, a very high vibrational stone for connecting to the angelic and healing realms and divine compassion. Very useful for those of you who are on a healer's path. If you are a healer or you want to be a healer, okay. Carnelian, since Chiron is in Aries, um, carnelian boosts confidence, courage, and personal power. Supports healing wounds around self-expression and worth. Okay, because Aries is with Chiron in Aries, these wounds are of the self, um, of courage and identity. We talked about that earlier. Also, red jasper helps ground the root chakra and restores strength, especially after burnout or if you're in some kind of survival mode because you're really getting hit hard and you're really going through it. It also helps with wounding around the ego. And because we have a Leo sun, and Leo, it can be associated with the ego. I also chose sunstone because that encourages authenticity, joy, and reclaiming the true self, um, which are all Leo um, descriptive terms. And sunstone also helps heal the fear of being seen, heard, or taking up space. So, work with these crystals with meditation, put them under your pillow while you sleep. Um, you can create a crystal grid if you know how to. If not, it's really simple. You can Google it. Or as a matter of fact, I think I have one from the the last Leo moon that I can share. And also, um, you could create um, some kind of a practice, spiritual practice. If you don't have one, if you do have one, while Chiron is in retrograde, put things that in on your or within your sacred space or your desk or wherever you spend a lot of time, your altar, put things that could be associated with your wound. If it's something from your childhood, maybe a picture of yourself as a child, or things that bring you joy, to bring in that Leo energy. But we want to be mindful to not bypass the wound. We want to take the time to heal the wound, um, or to at least understand it better. Okay. And that helps us to move through with more grace. And remember to be present with yourself. So I'm just going to pull a couple of cards to go with this. This is not the monthly reading for August. I will be back on with the monthly reading for August for the Oracle reading and an astrology reading. Sorry, I don't have that ready yet, but I still have two two more days. And then we're going to get into the divine feminine spirit energy with we're going to start reading my book, and we're going to start talking about how to embody the goddess energy and to use it to navigate your life along with the astrology and the numerology, and how to connect the dots. Shush, shush. And how to connect the, excuse me, how to connect the dots and moving forward, because that's what this is all about. It's using ancient wisdom um, to assist us to move forward with more understanding, grace, and ease, and to help us heal ourselves. So let's see what the cards say. I'm just going to pick out a few. So what do we need to know about this Chiron retrograde? Maverick, it's enough. Okay. No. Okay. This one. Actually, these two. And I'm going to pick one more. I'm going to take the one from the bottom. That will be our third card. So the first one is surrender to prayer. Give yourself over completely to the divine. When you pray from your heart, you will be heard throughout the universe, and answers and support will arrive. So remember to pray for that inner child. Remember to pray for that healing, and to pray for the strength and the courage to be able to process the discomfort from the transformation and the healing that is occurring for you. And we want to remember to surrender your desire to control people. We talked about the masculine and the feminine being out of balance. Being over controlling can sabotage relationships, especially your relationship with yourself and your immediate circle and of friends and family. To be more effectively achieve your goals, back off, regroup, and give the situation some breathing room. And this card very much resonates with that masculine and feminine energy, but also with Mercury retrograde, because that's what we need to do. We need to take a step back and we need to take a breath. Saturn retrograde, all the planets that are retrograde, Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, Chiron. What else? I can't remember what else. But it's five altogether. Did I name five? I don't remember. But with everything that is retrograde, and surrender to success. You are ready to experience abundance. Don't look back at previous roadblocks or difficulties. Leap into an exciting new world of possibilities. This is where doing this leads us. So if we surrender to prayer and we let the divine help us navigate moving forward with this Chiron energy and all the other retrograde energy, and we surrender our desire to control people, and we do us and let them do them and stay in our own lane, then we are able to release everything and step into our power. This is where I was saying that we take our pain and turn it into our power, using the wisdom that we've learned along the way while we were processing all that discomfort. So that is our video today. And I want to say, I just picked up the deck and look what's on the bottom. Surrender any denial that you have, accept people and situations exactly as they are without denying the difficulties. Then you can see things clearly and make the best decisions. I love synchronicity when it happens. And she's blindfolded and she is just trusting in the universe, in God, in spirit, in whatever you believe in. So please remember to hit the subscribe button and like and share. My views are going through the charts, but people are not subscribing. Please subscribe so you don't miss any video. I'm going to be doing more and more free teaching videos, okay? Along with the astrology and the oracle card readings and the numerology and the divine feminine energy and goddess energy that we're going to be doing. So, and I will be having a new interview coming up soon with um, Gavin, and he works with angels. So I can't wait to do that interview. We're actually supposed to do it last week, but we had a little family emergency that we had to deal with. So I had to reschedule. So I want to say smash that subscribe button. Give me the thumbs up, share with your friends or anyone that you think this video may be useful for. And thank you so much for your support. Thank you for watching me and helping me to grow and expand and to step out of my comfort zone and help you as I help myself. So thank you for helping me help you. Be blessed, be well. Lots and lots of love and namaste. And I will have the oracle card reading up for the first, and I will have the astrology up by Sunday because I do have somebody coming in from out of town for a couple of days, and I usually do that on my Sunday service. So that will all be uploaded. So have a beautiful, beautiful day. I hope wherever you are in the world, the sun is shining. Mine just went in, but supposed to have rain the rest of the week. So I'm going to take advantage of some sun today and do my little odds and ends later on tonight or tomorrow. But God bless everyone. Loads and loads of love.